Thank you for having us. Just to start off, I would like to introduce everyone on our panel. Starting in my immediate right, we have Jason John, VP of Mobile and Online Marketing at Gilt Groupe. To his right, Adam Rockmore, VP of Marketing at Fandango. And on the end, we have Bough, VP of Global Media and Consumer Engagement at Mondelez International. Bonin, I kind of want to start with you because things like movie tickets and daily deals, those are the type of, kind of discretionary, spur of the moment type of purchases that people are more likely, that are better suited for mobile. How does a company like Mondelez fit into mobile? How do you view customer engagement? Because it seems a little less apparent how you guys would do that effectively.
Yeah, of course. First, hello to everybody, and thank you guys for coming out. I'm excited to be here. So, it's interesting because I've been at Mondelez for a year and 4 months maybe, and before that I ran digital globally for PepsiCo. And when I came over and they wanted me to look, basically they said, look, we believe that the future of media is digital and we want a digital guy to chart the future of media. So I was like, wow, that's a big statement. Like, I don't know what to do with that. So I had to think, if we're talking about where the world is going, what is the channel that's most important for a company like us to win on? And it might seem not kind of transparent at first, but so we charted mobile. We came out, we said we were going to do this getting to 10, which was really 10% of all media spending, so TV, print, digital, all media spending in mobile globally. And so, we really put out an allocation because aspirations without allocations are meaningless, so really give us a goal to run after. And then the reason why we did is because when you actually step back and you look at our business, so when we split the business, Kraft Food Group, which is the grocery business, the $7 billion business went to one side, and what we became is pretty much a $39 billion snacking giant. But we became less of a load-in, so a pre-plan. So usually you go and you pre-plan, and that's how you buy Kraft cheese and those kind of things, to an impulse company. So we have brands like Oreo, brands like Cadbury, Trident, all the stuff that's front of store or impulse buys. So in reality, we became an impulse company overnight. And so the device that you have with you during that entire time is this mobile phone. And so as we look to trigger you in the morning to remind you to buy gum, to trigger you in aisle, to trigger you at lunch, digital prime time, or to interact with our main, with TV-based media during prime time viewing or video consumption on this device. So at the end of the day, we're an impulse company, and this is an impulse device. Even more than that is that we also became an international company. So with the majority of our revenue outside of the U.S., 40% of our revenue in BRIC countries, 60% of our growth. And so those markets are mobile markets. And the growth, the projected growth even further are markets like Africa, Indonesia, which are going to be not mobile first, but mobile only markets. So it made sense for us, as a global organization to really win on mobile and become one of the world's premier mobile marketers.
And how's that manifested itself? What specific mobile channels do you guys use to kind of reach market or consumers on mobile?
Of course. So with that getting to 10, we announced, and we've shown it at a lot of events and shared it, kind of a very focused investment strategy. And so we said, look, there's a lot of stuff you can do in mobile, but what really matters to us? And the first is we know that video consumption, so for example, I think in Egypt or GCC was the largest YouTube video viewed market last quarter, which is insanity, right? But we know that video consumption is happening on this device. We're a video-based advertiser for a lot of, all intents purposes. So we're losing reach. How do we regain that reach? So the first was video equivalency, making sure that we see it as a single screen and that we're increasing reach. So things that allow us to do that. The second pillar was really about engagement. So we also know that when we run social underneath TV, that we can see twice the effectiveness of the TV spot. We know that this is the only device ever, really, realistically, and we used to say you could interact with internet and TV, but this is the only device that allows you to interact with other forms of media, and we ultimately increase the value of those other forms of media. So the second pillar is really about engagement. So how do we build joint engagement? The next pillar is impulse. So that's everything from using in-game or using notification or using proximity or location or day parting, impulse media buying, so really to drive purchase. And then the next piece is in-store, which is really about loyalty. So again, a first ever opportunity for us to own a loyalty relationship in store with the consumer. If you actually step back and think about it, the loyalty relationship is owned by the card holder, right? So, and that card holder is the retailer. And so now we have a chance to actually have not just a loyalty relationship through the retailer, but also direct with consumer at the point of purchase. So those are really the 4 core pillars that we focus on, and a lot of that is being done in conjunction with some of the players on the stage, and so we just announced one of the largest Google mobile deal, so looking at big partners like that can scale globally. So.
Have you gotten to 10%? The only reason I ask is because I know that a lot of people who run mobile for brands that I talk to say that every year they try to kind of, make a heavy investment into mobile, but it always ends up getting pushed off to the budget next year, and that, whatever the year the mobile is ends up getting kind of pushed on down the line. I mean, have you guys reached that goal?
The good news is they made a digital guy kind of the head of all media. So, I'm going to try to, and I'm telling you guys we're going to get there, so we're getting there. Again, we don't disclose specific, but other than to tell you in a number of markets, yes, we will be there. In some markets like Asia Pac, the dramatic increase in spending in a year, I've never seen anything like this, and
for mobile specifically.
For mobile specifically, for digital in totality, but for mobile specifically. But even more important than I think that piece is we made this bet and we're already seeing it pay off. And so the results that we see, so for example, we ran in-store a test where we're targeting, consumers with an advertisement in-store. We've run a number of these. I'll give you one, the Catalina example, which is shopping bag, so a consumer scans, if the Catalina folks are here, you're welcome for the plug. If the shopper scans the product and then they bag it, and they bag it themselves and they pay with mobile. We saw, what's great is the average consumer of that is 33-year-old mom. Directly in our sweet spot, right? They are twice as likely to come back to the store and shop. They have twice as high of a basket, twice the size of the basket, and they're 18% more likely to actually purchase an impulse product. On top of that, we're able to see sales lifts in the high double digits, and we're able to address you at even pre-moment of decision, that 0 moment. So you scan cheese, and we say, cheese, we love cheese too, but it would taste a lot better with a Ritz cracker. And I'm able to impact that impulse decision right there at point of buy. It's insanity in terms of what that future state looks like for us. And so, we're doing that, and we're piecing together pieces because there's not big scale networks you can buy quite yet. So we're piecing together things that directionally look exactly the same to build our own kind of scale networks to do that, to do location, to do proximity. So I think what's more interesting is the results that we're seeing as a result of this mobile device. It's huge.
Thank you. Adam, I wanted to move on to you. You guys had a business that seemed tailored for mobile even before mobile was around. I was wondering if you could speak to kind of what that transition was like for your business once, smartphones started being adopted and people became increasingly more at ease with making purchases on their phones.
Yeah, well, so we've been in the mobile space sort of from WAP to heading into apps since 2005. So we were doing it very early in the process. I mean, inherently, we want to be anywhere where people are thinking about movie buying, movie ticket buying, and at the same time, as we know, especially as people are becoming much more mobile centric, they're planning their events last minute. They're somewhere and they're going, oh, what should we do? Let's go to a movie, and they're going right to their smartphone. And they're checking for show times, for theaters, what's playing in the vicinity. So the ability for us to really understand the consumer, to get into, the geolocation, to be able to make sure that we're serving things just tailored for them. We have a feature called Go Now, which is all about what's happening right in your area in, I think it's a couple hour time. We're working with advertisers. We have a new feature called Tixpress, which speeds that process. So we've been little by little just sort of making sure we understand this consumer and making sure we're tailoring the app or the WAP experience specifically for their need. So, when we look at it, we're looking at it and saying, well, typically it's a millennial, and what do they do? How do they interact? Do they plan with friends? How are they going to plan with friends? Let's make sure we're going to add features and functionality that really cater to this group. And it's proving, it's proving very, I'll say lucrative and productive for us. I mean, in a given weekend, on average, we're running about 40% now mobile. On a given movie, we could go as high as 50, 55%, depending on the movie.
What kind of movies do better on mobile?
I mean, it's what you'd expect. It's ones that tailor, look, mobile tends to be for us, it's younger. It's still mixed male, female, but it's much younger. But when it's a male sort of younger movie like Fast and Furious, that can be over 50%. Purge was close to 55%. So it's kind of exactly kind of what you would think would be the younger, just much more millennial kinds of movies. Typically blockbusters, though, they tend to be a bit of a mix, because a lot of people are just planning when they're buying tickets in advance. They're sort of, checking out, and it's much more of a planned, I'm doing this weeks before. So, we see a different dynamic, and we're trying to make sure we cater to those different dynamics that are going on.
Is there a difference in terms of how far ahead people will buy tickets versus desktop and mobile?
I would say it's yeah. So if I just generalize, mobile will be a little bit closer to the movie. So that's that would be. But in terms of it, a lot will depend again on the consumer behavior. It's not so much a demo as it is sort of a more lifestyle kind of how they plan. But the other piece, if I get more specific, is again, blockbusters that are like Hunger Games or Iron Man will have just a different behavior than something that I would say is a big movie, but it's just much more what I'll call of a millennial kind of movie. So big blockbusters, they tend to still be a lot of desktop. They'll still be mobile, but a lot of desktop. But movies that are very specific for the demo, like millennial movies, will go just mobile first.
Jason, I was wondering if you could also kind of talk about the transition, and I was wondering if you could also touch upon kind of targeting. Daily deals, there seems to be a movement kind of in that entire space to kind of make deals more catered to the individual consumer. And I was wondering, if you could speak to what challenges are inherent when doing that via mobile, and what also mobile allows you to do for targeting that you can't do on the desktop.
Yeah. So first of all, how many people actually shop at Gilt or have heard of Gilt? Do you guys know what it is? All right, so awesome. I love you guys already. So every day, at noon, we have a full new store that launches, right? So if you think about that, that's pretty cool that people have to be on at noon on Gilt if they're going to shop and get the items that they want. So it was very conducive for the mobile experience where always with you, always available. And if you want the goods that are going on sale, you need to be on your mobile device and get on and shop. So we have a penetration rate over 33% of our sales are actually on mobile, which is really high for a retail perspective. It's a challenge and an opportunity for us at the same time. I think from a targeting and personalization standpoint, a lot of what we do culturally and a lot of what we see in the industry happens on desktop first. And there's a lot more data advancement and data capabilities on the desktop side. It's just how, even how we started and how retail has started, selling on e-commerce a long time ago, way before mobile existed. So for us to try and translate and build all that technology and platform back end to support that same kind of personalization on the sales level on mobile has been quite challenging, but obviously very interesting and is going to pay off quite a bit. I think the other thing with mobile that we have to look at is from a device standpoint. It's clearly different from a smartphone versus tablet. Smartphone, we try to take an experience and we call it a 2-minute shopping experience. So whether you're in the back of a taxi or you're at your desktop at work and you just don't want people to see that you're shopping on Gilt, so you have it under the desk, whatever the situation is, we try and build it for speed and make sure that you can get in and get out as fast as you can. But what we see on the tablet side is people actually tell us that they love shopping at Gilt when they're in bed and having more browsing, inspirational type experience. No, get your head out of the gutter. I just say from an inspirational
Gilt in
standpoint.
bed?
Yeah, guilty bed trips. But really more inspiration from an imagery standpoint. So if you think of more of an editorial and magazine type of experience on the iPad app versus what we're trying to do on the smartphone. So really for us earlier on, developing that different device level strategy has been really key for moving the needle forward.
Can you tell me? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to think. I think Jason brings up a really, really interesting point, which is, the infrastructure for a lot of the big major players in the internet right now are actually not built for the mobile age. And so we're going to see a lot of struggling to get there. What's interesting, though, however, when you shift to China, India, those places, these are guys that are built mobile first. They're cloud. A lot of it is text-driven. It's super light, super fast on mobile device. And so I actually think Asia-Pac is going to begin to become a lab for the world. And we're going to start seeing a lot more transporting. I mean, some of the text platforms they have there, the text communities, have more users than Twitter. And, and the explosion there. So I actually think we're in a very interesting time in mobile because of that polarization.
Yep, definitely.
So you talked about differences between smartphone and tablet. What about differences between iOS and Android? Earlier this week, kind of Tim Cook, kind of released, all these stats about how iOS users are much more likely to kind of update their OS, and he essentially said that they're a more tech-savvy crowd. And I was wondering if, that manifested itself in kind of your consumers' habits.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably qualify by saying we can get shoppers on any device, but we really get buyers on iPhone and iOS devices.
More so than tablet.
More so than tablet, yeah, definitely. So I think, again, it's more of the time thing when, again, the store, everything goes on sale at noon. So most of the time at noon, you might not have access right now to a desktop or to a tablet. Tablet usage is more on the home side or at home. So from a smartphone perspective, we actually have higher penetration than on our tablet side. But clearly iOS, for whatever reason, probably mostly because the affluency of our demographic, the buying side has been coming from iOS, and we have yet to really crack the nut on getting that same type of scale on the Android side. Although we are seeing pockets of opportunity. And I guess, to allude to what Bonin is saying as well, is even the targeting capabilities are improving significantly over the past 6 to 9 months. So for us to be able to target new devices that are just made active recently, so it indicates a more savvy shopper. If they have a new device that's out in the market and they just activated it, that's a good person for us to go after. So for us, the targeting side is allowing us to find pockets of opportunity, but the scale has really been more on the iOS side.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I mean, for us, since we've sort of been in the space and we've tailored our mobile experience very much to the utility of either showtimes, theaters, or buying the ticket, for us, it's worked out quite well both on Android and on iOS, and even on WAP. Still, a lot of folks use it because you talked about get in, get out. We've had that same kind of thing, which is get in, get out. I mean, we have about 34 million downloads now across iOS and Android, and quite a lot of active folks, and both sides are using it. So for us, it's really more about just getting more people off of just showtimes and theaters to actually purchasing, but we still have a lot of that happening too. And I think that just comes to making sure that it is custom to. With moviegoing, it's just more of a, I'm not going to say it's not discretionary, it truly is, but it's sort of when someone wants to go to a movie, they want to go to a movie, and now they're just trying to figure out how they can facilitate that process.
Because I travel so much, I had to focus on date night tomorrow with my fiance before she divorces me. So movie is actually a must.
It's a good planning thing, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, now I'm thinking about getting a Ritz cracker after this. So I can't get that.
Here we
out
go.
of my head.
Done. I go buy my Fandango tickets.
It's interesting, it seems that you guys view mobile as for your respective companies, it exists at different parts of the funnel for each of you guys. And I was wondering, what is kind of the cross-device kind of experience like? How do you guys try to track customers and get them to convert, whether they're on desktop, whether they're on their tablet, and whether they're on their smartphone?
I mean, I think it's probably a better question for you.
Yeah, I mean,
guys.
look, we obviously map the entire purchase funnel, and what I'll even say, we've now really, as we're getting deeper and deeper into content, for us, it's almost an engagement funnel going into a purchase funnel, because the more people we can get just to, we have a advertising business and we also have a ticketing business. So we're trying to get as many people into the funnel as possible, and engagement is a great way to do that. And engagement can be content, it can be showtimes, theaters, all that kind of stuff. So we're mapping it every step of the way, and we're trying just to tweak, optimize messaging. We know a lot more now about the different customers that are using it. So as we can map those to different genres of movie, both demographically but psychographically, we can start tailoring messaging. You're going to see a lot more of that. We're doing a lot of testing. And the great thing about this business is you can test and test and test and optimize and tweak. And so we've kind of taken, we have everything from how does someone, the different paths that they can go through into the funnel all the way to purchasing to at each step, when we're trying to convert them. So it's just, it's a lot of science, and then the art comes into where we're moving things. So it's a lot of and we do that on iOS, we do that on desktop. So the process isn't different. The tracking tools might be different. Obviously it's a lot harder to track in app than it is to track on your desktop. So we're just having to adjust all exactly how we track those things.
Yeah, and I think it's probably, well, it's a little, I would just say, because it's super clear because you guys convert in the channel. For us, it's, we're just now trying to learn how do we start to judge what is a good customer? What is, all those different things. So, because we know the future looks like our ability to deliver you maybe a different type of loyalty, whether it's coupon or something based on what data we know about you. So you purchased Oreos before, we can discount you on Rich. You've done, and how do we use this mobile device? And we know that, first, what I think is great is that the organization has agreed that this is a huge priority, because at the end of the day, I say this all the time in the org, there's 7 billion people in the world. There are 5 billion smartphones and only 4 billion toothbrushes. So, this is the most scaled platform, and I think 1 billion people didn't get the text message about hygiene. But this is where the future's going, and we know that the consumer data that this is throwing off is going to be super important to us. So we're trying to learn, how do you start to match that consumer data to purchasing behaviors? But I think it's a lot harder, and there's also so many new platforms coming onto the market. So you look at a platform like Nomi. So Nomi, for those of you who don't know, they do 3 basic things. They tell you, they put a route. First of all, their whole business is really putting a router inside of a store, and they tell you 3 things. 1, who passed by the store, how much, or did they walk in, and how long did they stay? Now that's kind of their base product. They have other sophisticated things, but that information is hugely valuable for a marketer like us, and we've never seen that before. So now we have to figure out, how do we tie that to purchase data? What does that mean? What does a good customer look like? We're learning that.
Yeah, and I think, even from a holistic, take the data aside, from the art part of it, whenever a consumer is engaging with your brand on different channels, it's better, right? So even from J. Crew days where we were scared that the internet was going to cannibalize store sales, right? And everybody in the store was like, oh my gosh. So, but what all the analysis shows that when they engage now in store and online, their overall lifetime value increases it was over 10%. So we're starting to see that on the mobile front now too. So holistically, what we're trying to do is expose our consumers to as many channels as possible, and then tailor the channel strategy to solve for why they'd be engaging with you in that channel. So they're engaging with us, as I said, on a tablet versus smartphone differently, but holistically, we want them to engage on desktop, on smartphone, and on tablet, because their lifetime value is going to increase. So the tools and the data behind that to prove it is a little bit tricky right now, but intuitively, we've seen directional information to prove that out, and now we're just trying to go with that. So strategically, no matter where you come in from the funnel, getting you to shop and engage cross-channel is an extremely important thing for us.
Mm. Well, we have a few minutes here. I'd like to open up to any questions if anyone would care to ask anything. Yeah, go ahead.
More for you as a brand who's not selling directly to your consumer, you're selling through another retailer. How are you leveraging loyalty in store at shelf? Are you working with those retailers? Are you doing it directly through mobile? What are some tips that you're doing there?
We're doing both. So we're trying to, just like us, the retailers are trying to figure out. One of the things that we're trying to focus on is, how do we accelerate our learning in the marketplace as fast as possible, figure out what works, and then scale it. And so in October, the same time we launched, we actually announced a mobile accelerator called Mobile Futures. And that was really about, 3 spaces. One was social TV, one was Impulse, and then the other one was mobile at retail. Clearly a lot of heart around the mobile at retail. And we looked for, what are the best startups in the space, and what are they thinking? What are the guys that are on the cutting edge? And then we brought our retailers in to partner with us. And the goal was, we saw 300 startups. We brought 22 in to come present to us, and then we selected 9, and we rolled out programs with ourselves and our retailers. And so what we're now, and it was in 90 days, so we wanted to do it at the pace that, the marketplace is actually moving at. So there's few big companies like us that can say in 90 days they put 9 pilots into the mobile at retail space, right? And we have. And so the first thing I think is, how do you test really quickly? And then people talk about test and learn. I say, forget test and learn and do. So now that we know, now we're looking at, how do we scale those quickly alongside of our retailers? Some are retailer specific, some are direct to customer through us, but alongside of our retailers, because they have a scaled footprint. And it's not just about that one technology. That's the other thing I think people face. I think 2 things. One is, people look at the scale of the technology itself. Forget about that, dude. I have a footprint that's more scaled scale than any technology company in the world, right? I can put an Oreo cookie into somebody's mouth anywhere in the world, right? So I have the scale. Let me use my scale to think things that are actually going to provide disproportionate advantage to my business, and let me scale those quickly. The other piece is I don't have to go with one player. I can find things that look alike in all markets or even in that one market and build my own kind of network. So I think speed, willing to scale, and working with your retailers.
Yeah, Greg.
Hi, Greg Stewart from the Mobile Marketing Association. Hey, Bonin.
How are you, Greg? Uh-oh.
So,
Do you have any Oreo cookies?
We announced the accelerator at the mobile marketing. Sorry, go ahead.
on the 10%.
Yeah.
Right. It actually came. You going to Cannes next week?
Yes, I will be with you.
We'll get started.
Do you guys want some alone time?
Apparently.
That's good.
Listen, you're very articulate about mobile's value, and of course, as the head of MMA, we love that. However, do you really know at this point, does Mondelez have a sense of really what the ROI of mobile is relative to some of your options, like a dollar and cents basis for it at this stage, or where are you with that?
So, one of the big things, look, I'm a digital guy, and I was so used to the scrutiny that was put on digital media, more scrutiny than on any other media. So when I came in and saw some of the way that we were measuring the overall media ecosystem, I was blown away that this is, and so it was really about putting scrutiny around that measurement. So one of the things that we have launched is attribution modeling across most of our major market, across all of our markets anyway. But so what I can tell you in certain instances, specific ROI for mobile, but more importantly, what I can tell you now is attribution of how much did mobile add to television, how much did television add to print, how much did mobile add to social, and as a result, the holistic value of that ecosystem. And the thing that we're learning more and more is that it's about that ecosystem. So I can tell you, double percentage growth, sales number specifically attributable to mobile and one of our brands, and I don't want to share it here, but I can, share it in private with a couple of people, so I can definitely tell you that. But more importantly, what we see is that it adds to that holistic ecosystem. So again, I can tell you it makes my TV twice as effective. I can second screen kind of interaction stuff. So that stuff to me is way more important because if I can use a 10% spend here to make a bigger percentage spend work that much harder, that's where the win is.
Looks like we have time for one more question. One of you two back there.
I have Mike. Hello.
Yeah.
Kenneth Watson with Fuzz Productions. We're a mobile app developer in Brooklyn, New York. Great job on the panel. Question, are you looking at how consumers are using mobile web and tying that or integrating with mobile apps, for example? Since the phone is an addressable device, you know or have the ability to know if someone's taking certain actions on your mobile website, and you can push them notifications either to your mobile site for other activity that you want, or you can push them notifications to the mobile app. Are you looking at integrating those two and looking at the data that exists there?
I mean, in our case, it's, to be honest, we're indifferent because the behavior is actually very similar. Our functionality is very similar. For that standpoint, again, we treat mobile very much like it's a utility, and we're making sure that people, we have video in sort of key places. We have showtime, and we have ticketing kind of information. So the behavior seems to be very similar. It seems to be just a preference for certain people. We have the ability to serve up and say, if you're on mobile web, do you want to download an app? And, we still get continued takes on that. I mean, we're up to, again, 34 million downloads. But, we're finding conversion, all those things still operate very similar for us. So we're not, we're not in any great rush to try and shut it down or do anything different. It's still, again, it's very distilled and useful.
Well, I think that's all the time we have. Let's give a hand for our panelists here. Thank you.